Good day dear chess lovers, Zoran here, and in today's video I want to share with you the first decisive game of 2021 World Chess Championship match. This also became a record-holding game, becoming the longest game played at a World Chess Championship match. It lasted for 136 moves. The previous longest game was the fifth round game of 1978 Karpov-Korchnoi match. It lasted for 124 moves, ended in a draw, but this time this game not only broke the previous record but also was a decisive one, with which I am very happy. So Carlsen is on the white side, the challenger is playing with the black pieces, and now without much talk, let's go for it. Carlsen opened up with d4, to which Nepo answered with knight f6, knight f3, d5, g3. Still at the moment white is not revealing his intentions, is quietly going for a fianchetto of the kingside bishop, and then we have b3 in a hyper-modern style, developing the second bishop, something which nowadays is very popular. c5, d takes c5, bishop takes c5, c4. Before this, usually white was playing bishop b2. If knight c6, then c4, and then queen c1. For example, this position occurred in 2018 in a game played between Nakamura and Dominguez Perez. But in our game we have c4 move, and very quickly Carlsen is deviating from the main opening theory in order to surprise his opponent and reveal his home preparations. Knight bd2, yes, we are on move 10 already, we are in uncharted territories. Knight c6, black is making a solid and safe move, and Nepo decided not to win the offered pawn, something which could really become problematic for black. The thing is that now this light squared bishop is hindering the development of the queenside pieces, then white can develop the dark squared bishop, and later, relying on that bishop, can even organize a dangerous kingside attack. That's why black chose a safe knight c6 move, knight takes c4, b5. b5 is really a good move. It may seem that it's somehow weakening the queen side, but it's a very good and dynamic move with which black is managing to develop the light squared bishop and get a very nice position. All in all, we have an equality, nothing special. But now with bishop takes f6, white is weakening opponent's king side, is doubling up the pawns on the f-file. At the moment, of course, there are no dangers to the security of black king, but in near future this can become a potential weakness, and white can emphasize that fact. King g1, queen e4, queen c2, a5, rook d1, king g7, rook d2, rook c8. This is a very sensitive decision by Nepo. Better is b4. If here and the knight b4, then in his arsenal black has bishop takes f2 move and is winning back the sacrificed pawn. We have an equality, and I think that without much effort black can draw this position, but instead we have rook c8. The problem with this move is that white is managing to trade off the queen with two rooks, and against the queen get two rooks, yes. And as you know, rooks can cooperate together, finding targets, while the queen is alone and can't do much. Usually in these type of situations, the one who has the queen is trying to rely on perpetual checks. Bishop b2 is another mistake. Better was bishop a1. For example, if you want to make a move with your bishop, better is bishop a1 or queen b3. Instead, black decided to come after these vulnerable looking pawns, but that's not good. And here is the problem with this bishop b2 move. Relying on the pin, black made that move, but it's not good in view of rook cc2 move. As you can see, with rook cc2, white is managing to win. If bishop takes a3, then knight f4, and then rook d7. Well, you are winning two pawns, but then two white rooks are penetrating the 7th rank, and you're getting crushed. If here, then rook d8, right? But to the huge disappointment of all chess lovers, Carlsen missed rook cc2 move and played rook d1. Both players were already under serious time pressure. They had to complete the time control up to move 40, and at this point they made some inaccuracies. Especially Carlsen could really finish up the game very quickly. He missed rook cc2 move, and the game went on. The game went on, becoming the longest World Chess Championship game. Queen takes b4, knight takes e4. In here, rook c2 is very strong, keeping these two pieces tied up. If king g6, then knight takes a4, and then rook c3. Very strange that Carlsen didn't choose this line. He will win the bishop, and then with two rooks will create huge problems for his opponent. Instead, we have knight takes e4, queen b3, rook c2, and now white will try to win this pawn, but that's not an easy task, because now black is putting it on the dark square, where it will be successfully guarded by the dark squared bishop. Okay, and then the players kept on maneuvering, trying to find better squares for their pieces, and when it comes to Carlsen, he was hoping that his opponent will make another sensitive move on which he will rely. Oops, rook takes a3 landed. Carlsen is making an exchange sacrifice, but black didn't accept it. Well, black could actually play rook takes a3, but probably was afraid that can't hold this position. White can, for example, put the knight on f4 and then win this pawn, right? That's quite possible. Instead, we have queen takes h4. In return, black is winning white's h-pawn, rook a4, and now Carlsen, after getting rid of that black's a-pawn, will try to find new targets. Here we go, some more maneuvers, and let's see what's going to happen next. Yeah, black's king side looks very vulnerable. That pawn chain is not good. If only, for example, this pawn were on g6, then I don't think that there could be any problems for black, but yeah, these pawn islands are a huge problem. And now let's see how is Carlsen going to make a progress. Okay guys, as you can see, I'm just going quickly through the game. This is actually a very complex game with too many underwater stones, and you can analyze these for hours or even for days and endlessly analyze, but we are just going through it quickly. And as you can also see, I left Stockfish run in order you can see how the evaluation changes throughout the game. Rook a5. At the moment, Carlsen is not winning the f-pawn. He will win it once the moves are repeated. Oops, and there it goes. Rook takes f5. Queen d3, rook takes f7. Probably black was hoping that white will play rook e5. Then he will make bishop takes e3 move. If here, then queen takes b5. Not sure. Did Nepo really miss rook takes f7 in his calculations? Yeah, and this line is something which he should have not allowed, although what else he could do? Yeah, probably he should have not allowed this type of a combination. Of course, still we have an equality, but holding this position turned out to be a huge problem for black. Look, from white side it's very easy to play this position. You are not obliged to, I don't know, find difficult moves. All you have to do is not to blunder and not to allow a perpetual check and gradually make a progress. While in your opponent's case, all the time he has to find the best squares for his queen in order to maintain the possibility of announcing a perpetual check, something which turned out to be a very difficult task, especially under time pressure, and Carlsen successfully made use of that fact. Meanwhile, we see some more maneuvering. Carlsen is hoping that his opponent will make a mistake, and let's see finally when will Carlsen push forward one of his pawns. Okay, probably we have already seen this position. We are coming back to it all over again, but hopefully we don't have a repetition, we don't have a threefold repetition. And oops, finally on move 110 we have e4 move. I really love that number 110. As you know, it's a very symbolic number for me. Those who know me better know what 110 means for me. Okay, and black plays h4. h4, probably the reason for h4 is that later, very quickly, white can target this pawn. That's why black decided to simplify the position further, and so we have 7 pieces on the board, right? 7-piece table base shows that this is a draw, but in reality now you will see how difficult it is to hold this position. Now you will see, meanwhile, Carlsen is making a progress and is pushing forward his pawns. Where are those pawns? Carlsen, make a move, please, make a move. Where are your pawns going? Oops, the e-pawn is marching forward, is stepping forward, and queen a2 check. King h3, queen e6. So far so good, up to move 130. Nepo was more or less holding, although yeah, in some cases Carlsen missed a win, but more or less he was holding. But in here, queen e6 turned out to be a fatal mistake, after which Carlsen no longer gave his opponent a chance of surviving. Turns out that in here there are 2 moves which are allowing black to draw, queen c2 or queen b1. I guess the reason for putting your queen on this diagonal is to have control of it, and at the same time from behind you're also having a chance of harassing white king. This is one of the possible lines how black should hold the position, but probably, as you can understand, it's a very complex position and it's not that clear why on earth should you play queen c2 or queen b1, bring your queen on f2, and not, for example, queen e6. He pinned the rook, which looks natural, but now it's exposed to some attacks, and yeah, the queen is very quickly getting cornered. I guess that's the reason that you should not have played queen e6. Imagine the queen was here, you could give some checks, but already in this case, even for checks, it's too late, and very confidently white pawns are stepping forward, and a few more moves, after which resignation followed. I'm sorry, I'm very sorry. In here, after knight g7, actually resignation followed. Yes, we're on move 136, and the reigning world chess champion Magnus Carlsen is celebrating a victory. The threat is e7, e8. If check, then here, and then, for example, here, check, here, and white queen is going towards the 8th rank, and there is nothing you can do, and then the pawns will step forward. White is winning already. We have a forced mate. Even on move 136 we see a forced mate in 16, right? Yeah, Nepo understood that it's over and he resigned. So this is it, dear chess lovers. This was a very long and tiring game for both players. Like a python, Carlsen pushed up to the end and finally managed to strangle his opponent. The match still goes on. This is very good that finally we see a victory. Nepo will now throw all his anger at his opponent, and this can lead to more decisive results. That was very boring that up to this point we had 5 draws, and that was the reason that I was really not satisfied with what was going on the board. That's why I was not covering those games, but this one is really good, and finally we see the 6th game of World Chess Championship match on my channel. Thanks for watching, looking forward impatiently for the next games, and we'll see you in my next video. Take care.